What if your body has been warning you about a stroke and you've been dismissing it as nothing every single day for weeks? Before any brain scan, before any ER visit, the signs may already be visible right in your face, your hands, and even in how you've been sleeping. Today, what I'm about to share could change how you see your health forever. Last spring, a 68-year-old retired teacher sat in my office, certain she was fine. She wasn't. This video is what I told her. As a specialist, and what I see again and again breaks my heart a little every time. People come in after a stroke and say the same thing. I noticed something was off, but I thought it was nothing. And here's the problem. A standard checkup almost never catches what's coming. Blood pressure looks normal. Cholesterol is managed. The patient feels basically okay. So everyone goes home reassured. But the body doesn't lie. It starts sending signals 24 to 72 hours before a stroke hits. Quiet ones, easy to explain away, showing up first in the face, the hands, and sleep patterns. Consider this. 800,000 Americans have a stroke every year. According to the CDC and the American Heart Association, up to 43% of them experienced clear warning signs in the 24 hours before it happened and ignored them. My patient Margaret was 68, retired, and walked every morning. No major diagnoses. She came in for a routine follow-up and almost didn't mention it. A dull headache behind one eye that had been there for 2 days. She was sure it was sinus pressure. It wasn't. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what I showed Margaret. Every single warning sign I'm about to share has a perfectly ordinary excuse attached to it. Tiredness, stress, dehydration, aging. I just slept funny. And that's exactly why these signs get missed. Not because they're invisible, but because your brain is very good at filing unfamiliar things under familiar labels. This is called normalization, and it happens automatically. When something feels off, your mind searches for the most comfortable explanation it can find. A headache becomes sinus pressure. A clumsy hand becomes a bad night's sleep. A moment of confusion becomes just a senior moment. The symptom is real. The explanation is wrong. Researchers who study stroke awareness have found that one of the biggest barriers to getting help in time is not that people don't notice something is wrong. It's that they talk themselves out of it. They wait. They watch. They hope it goes away. And sometimes it does go away, which actually makes things worse because that temporary relief feels like proof that nothing serious was happening. In reality, a warning sign that disappears on its own is still a warning sign. So before we go through these signs together, I want you to make one decision. Decide right now that for the next few minutes, you are going to set aside every innocent explanation your mind wants to offer. You can pick those explanations back up afterward if you want, but while we go through this list, give your body the benefit of the doubt. The signs aren't subtle because they're small. They're subtle because your brain has already explained them away. That stops right now. The first sign is a headache that moves around or comes and goes in waves. Most people say, it's just tension. I've been stressed. And stress headaches are real. But a headache that shifts location or fades and then comes back stronger can mean that blood pressure inside the brain's vessels is rising and dropping unevenly. Think of a garden hose with a partial kink in it. The water pressure doesn't stop, it spikes and stutters. The American Heart Association notes that headache precedes ischemic stroke in a meaningful number of cases. So for the next 3 days, open your phone's Notes app and write down where your headache is, when it starts, and when it moves. That simple record could be the most important thing you bring to your next doctor's visit. The second sign is fatigue that arrives without reason. Not tiredness after a long day, exhaustion that hits you in the middle of doing nothing. What's happening is that your brain, sensing reduced blood flow, begins shutting down lower priority functions to protect the most critical ones. It is your body's version of a city dimming its streetlights during a power shortage. Research published in stroke-focused medical literature has found that a significant portion of ischemic stroke patients reported unusual fatigue in the 24 hours before their event. Ask yourself honestly, is this fatigue earned, or does it appear out of nowhere? The third sign is a brief episode of blurred or double vision that cleared on its own. Probably dry eyes, most people say. But when vision blurs suddenly and then returns to normal, it can mean the brain temporarily lost blood supply to the visual processing area, a known feature of transient ischemic attacks, which precede a significant number of strokes. If this happens even once, call your doctor that same day. The fourth sign is numbness or a strange feeling on one side of your face, especially around the mouth. One-sided facial symptoms are taken seriously enough that they form part of the FAST criteria, the American Heart Association's globally validated stroke recognition tool. Face drooping or numbness is listed first for a reason. Start each morning with one simple habit. Smile in the mirror. If one side of your smile looks different than it did yesterday, that is a signal worth acting on. Pause here for a second. Have you experienced even one of these signs in the last week? Or is there someone you love who mentions things like this and then waves it off? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single one. Because what comes next is where this gets more serious and, honestly, more surprising. The next signs are the ones most people have never once connected to stroke risk. And for some of you, they will sound very familiar. The fifth sign is something that happens in the middle of a sentence. You are talking about something familiar, something you know well, and the word just isn't there. You reach for it and find nothing. Most people say, I've always been a little scattered. It's just a senior moment. But when this happens suddenly and specifically with words you use every day, it has a medical name, transient aphasia. It means the language centers in the left side of the brain are not getting enough blood, even briefly. Think of a computer that freezes mid-task, not because it's old, but because a critical resource was suddenly cut off. Medical literature documents word-finding difficulty in a notable portion of pre-stroke patients in the 24 hours before their event. Pay attention if it happens more than twice in a single day, or if the words it steals are ordinary ones. The sixth sign is clumsiness in one hand, dropping things, misjudging a grip, fumbling with objects that normally give you no trouble. My hands aren't what they used to be, people say. But there is a difference between general aging and one hand suddenly behaving differently than the other. When only one hand is affected, that points to something localized in the brain, not general wear and tear. This was Margaret's sign. She mentioned almost as an aside that she had dropped her coffee mug twice that morning. She hadn't connected it to the headache behind her eye. I had her in imaging within the hour. Each morning, try buttoning a shirt or picking up a few small coins. Notice if one hand lags behind. The seventh sign is a ringing or rushing sound in one ear only. And here is the part most people miss entirely. Ordinary tinnitus affects both ears or alternates. But a sound that pulses, that seems to beat in a rhythm, may be caused by turbulent blood flow in a narrowed artery near the ear. This is called pulsatile tinnitus, and it is recognized in medical literature as a potential sign of carotid artery disease. The sound is not the problem, it is the signal. Try this. Hold your breath for a moment and notice whether the sound pulses in time with your heartbeat. If it does, bring that information to your doctor. This is the one almost nobody ever talks about, the one I have never seen covered in a mainstream health video or a basic stroke awareness pamphlet. Once you know it, you will never unsee it. The eighth sign is a sudden wave of nausea, with no stomach reason for it, accompanied by a brief feeling that the room is shifting or tilting. It comes out of nowhere. It may last only seconds, and almost everyone who experiences it reaches for the same explanations. Something they ate, low blood sugar, an inner ear problem, standing up too fast. Here is what is actually happening. Deep inside the brainstem sits the vestibular system, the part of your brain that tells your body where it is in space. When blood supply to that area is briefly reduced, the brain loses its sense of balance and position. It responds the way it always does when something is deeply wrong, with nausea and with the terrifying sensation that the world around you has moved. The instrument still works. The supply feeding it has been interrupted. Think of a ship's compass spinning briefly, not because it is broken, but because something in its environment suddenly changed. This type of stroke, called a posterior circulation or vertebrobasilar stroke, is well documented in medical literature as one of the most commonly missed, both by patients and, at times, even in emergency settings. Sudden onset nausea paired with vertigo is a recognized warning feature of this stroke type. Right after this video, ask yourself honestly, have I had a moment like this in the last 72 hours? A sudden wave of nausea with no clear cause, a brief feeling that the room moved, even once. If the answer is yes, that conversation with your doctor cannot wait until your next scheduled appointment. I am not going to give you a long list of things to do. Lists get forgotten. So I am going to give you one thing, and I want you to do it tomorrow morning. Call your doctor's office and ask for two things: a carotid artery ultrasound and a basic cardiovascular panel. That is it. The carotid ultrasound looks at the arteries in your neck that carry blood to your brain. It is non-invasive, it is painless, and it takes about 20 minutes. A basic cardiovascular panel checks the key markers in your blood that affect stroke risk, things like cholesterol levels and blood sugar. For most people watching this on Medicare, preventive cardiovascular screening is a covered benefit. For those paying out of pocket, a carotid ultrasound at a certified imaging center typically costs somewhere between $40 and $80. This is not a complicated ask. It is one phone call. You came into this video not knowing what to look for. You are leaving it with 8 specific things, warning signs that most people have never been told about. Signs that appear in the body up to 24 to 72 hours before a stroke hits. That knowledge belongs to you now. What you do with it is your choice, but you can never again say you didn't know. Margaret knew because she came in, because one small detail got mentioned, because somebody was listening. That is all it took. Now, here is what I need you to do before you close this video. Think of one person, your spouse, your sister, your adult son or daughter, someone who has ever brushed off a weird headache, a clumsy morning, or a moment of dizziness and called it nothing. Send them this video right now. It may be the most important thing you do today. If this video gave you something your doctor hasn't covered in a regular appointment, do one small thing before you leave. Hit the like button. That single tap tells YouTube to show this video to someone else who may need it right now. Someone who is brushing something off. Someone whose family member has been quietly worried. You will never know who you helped, but it matters. Subscribe if you are not already here. Every day I put out a new video made specifically for people in your stage of life. Honest, practical health information on the topics that affect you most, explained in plain language, without the medical jargon. And finally, drop one word in the comments below. Just one word. Tell me which of the 8 signs surprised you the most. That is all. One word. I read the comments, and your answer helps me understand what to cover next, because this channel exists for you, And what you need to know is what drives everything I make. Thank you for watching all the way through. That tells me you take your health seriously. Hold on to that.